Governor Ron DeSantis on Monday mocked President Joe Biden for visiting his state last week to campaign for Democratic candidates. DeSantis openly made fun of Biden's age, stating that, quote, "There was an older fellow wandering around South Florida aimlessly. Maybe he needed some assistance." DeSantis celebrated Biden's visit, claiming it reminded Florida voters of a record the Republican governor has consistently criticized. Attacking Biden and opposing the president's agenda has turned DeSantis into a rock star in the Republican Party. Now, in the final hours of his re-election campaign, he is leading Democratic challenger Charlie Crist by double digits, according to recent polls.
Actually going to do even more coming up, and you'll hear about that shortly. So we're proud of standing up for your freedom. We are the freest state in the country because we've taken action to ensure we're the freest state in the country. Now, last week, we had a visitor down in South Florida. I just got a report that there was an older fellow wandering around South Florida aimlessly. Maybe he needed some assistance. So turns out it was Joe. And, you know, all I can say, when they asked me whether I was upset that he was coming to campaign against me in Florida, I said, "Are you crazy? This is a gift to me." I want every Florida voter to know that the Democrats in this state are standing with Joe Biden and his policies 100% of the time. And what we're seeing is the fruits of those policies. And look, the guy's obviously got issues. You wait. Democrats get blown out on Tuesday, which I think they will. But you wait. When that happens, you're going to see regime media in D.C. and New York. They're going to start knifing this guy. They're going to turn on him. You know, they protected him for how many years? Now, if they view him as a liability, they're going to do whatever they can to try to push him off the stage. So you're going to start seeing more stories. Is he mentally fit for president? Can he handle it? Is he too old? All this stuff. Yeah, but they should have been asking this in 2020. Are you kidding me? So you're going to see that it's all very predictable how these people operate. I will say this about him, though, and I thought at the time this was a really dumb decision by picking Kamala Harris as the running mate, but from his perspective, it's really great insurance because no matter how bad old Joe is, nobody wants Kamala. Nobody wants Kamala. So he's got issues, but here's the thing that really bugs me, is that if you look at the problems that we have, record inflation for 40-year period since 40 years ago. You look at the energy prices and the cost of energy. You look at the border, all these different things. Those are not just problems that happen to come and now he has to deal with it. Those are problems that his policies have created in the first place. They spent trillions of dollars and printed trillions when they were warned, if you do this, you are going to drive inflation through the roof, and yet they went ahead and barreled ahead and did it anyways, and now here we are. He came into office waging war on American energy production, and what do you think's going to happen? Of course you're going to pay more when that happens, and so he doesn't want us producing more gas and oil here, but he wants us begging Nicolas Maduro for oil in Venezuela or begging the Saudis and OPEC for oil. So now we are in a very vulnerable position because our economy and security depends on these other countries. We should be energy independent and not have to worry about these other countries. And then you see at the border, and the thing about the border is it was hard to get a lot of people, a lot of the elites to even acknowledge the border You have millions of people coming in illegally. Yeah, they don't care. You have the cartels making a fortune, bringing product in like fentanyl. They don't care. Fentanyl's getting in our communities, leading cause of death in America for 18 to 45. They don't care. Criminal aliens coming across the border, including over 90 suspected terrorists last fiscal year alone. And that's not me saying that. That's Biden's own DHS reporting that. But they didn't care about that. They only cared about the border when 50 show up to Martha's Vineyard. Then they get upset about it. Other than that, they didn't care. And why? Why does that? And the reason is because elites in our country, they want to impose their vision and their policies on the rest of the country, but they do not want to have to live under the consequences of their own policies themselves. And that is one of the reasons we have so many problems in our country right now. But I'll tell you this, now people know about this problem. It's a front burner issue. Biden and the Dems are on the defensive. And yes, I think Republicans will win the majorities on Tuesday. But the question's going to be, what are you going to do with those majorities? And I think they need to use their power to deal with this border once and for all. I am excited about Tuesday. I do think you're going to see big majorities in the House. I think you're going to see Senate majority, pretty clear Senate majority. And I'm excited about, as a governor, I look at these governor's races. Part of the reason I just want good people to get elected, but part of the reason is these races in other states affect Florida more than any other state, because think about it. You have the Georgia governor's race with our governor running against Stacey Abrams. And here's the truth. I think the governor is gonna win it going away. I think she's going to get crushed. But if she were to win and Stacey Abrams got elected, you would absolutely see a rush of Georgians moving to the state of Florida. That would definitely happen. You remember Palm Beach, when de Blasio got elected mayor of New York City, real estate prices spiked the next week because people got the hell out of there. And they were very smart to do that, by the way, because the whole place has gone to hell in a handbasket since he got elected. So these races affect us. And so I went up last week and campaigned in New York for our governor candidate, Lee Zeldin. And I think he's got a great shot. It's a tough state, but the problems are really, really big. And I was able to talk to a lot of these folks. This is on Long Island. Honestly, some of them are going to move to Florida no matter what happens in that election. We know that. So I'm talking to them, and I'm just saying, listen, you guys have really failed leadership. Just compare Florida to your state. We have millions of more people than New York State does, and yet their budget is over twice the size of our budget. And yet, when New Yorkers move here, they tell me, you guys have better roads, better services, and we know we have higher performing schools. So where is all that money going? They're taxing people. They're treating businesses, particularly small businesses, terribly. That's why a lot of them have moved to Florida in the last couple of years, and yet the money just gets frittered away. So in Florida, we respect taxpayers. We don't even have an income tax. We're not going to have an income tax. We have the second lowest state tax burden per capita in America. New York has one of the highest. We have the second lowest state debt per capita in the country. New York has one of the highest. And we also, with no income tax, we had a $102 billion budget last fiscal year and a $22 billion budget surplus, largest in history. But then you look about how the reason why he's got a chance is because they've gone woke when it comes to law and order. And in the state of Florida, with me as governor, we are a law and order state. I'm a law and order governor. We're going to keep people safe. So they do things, you know, they went after it with the George Floyd, they slashed police budget in New York City, other areas around the country slashed police budget. What do you think happened to crime when you do that? Of course it goes up. They've enacted weak on crime policies like eliminating cash bail. What does that mean? Someone will commit a crime and they release them right back on the street and they commit more crimes before they even stand trial for the previously committed crimes. And that's dangerous. They also have soft sentencing policies and they release people early from prison. And then they've elected in Manhattan, but also in San Francisco and Los Angeles and other places, progressive left-wing prosecutors who say they're going to reform criminal justice system. And what do? They ignore laws they don't like. So in San Francisco, you could steal $999 for the store. They said, we're only going to prosecute you if you steal $1,000 or more. Well, of course, these guys are stealing left and right. You have more crime, lawlessness builds. Prosecutors cannot ignore the law. We had a guy in Tampa try to do that in the state of Florida. I removed him from his post. But you have all those problems. So people, when you can have whatever political views you want, but if you and your family don't have basic safety to live your life, a lot of that other stuff starts to go out the window. And I can tell you, people that have moved to Florida, one of the things they'll tell realtors, particularly families, they don't feel safe in a lot of the places that they're coming from. And they view Florida not just as a refuge of sanity, not just as a citadel of freedom, but also a place where we are going to maintain public order. And that's very, very important. Now, how many of you have moved to Florida within the last 4 years since I've been governor? Okay. How many of you still would have moved if I lost governor and the other guy got in? You would have come still? Okay. So you see, though, what happens. So these policies matter, and we're going to have an election on Tuesday night, which is very important. But make no mistake about it, the American people have been voting with their feet for the last 4 years. And you look at the results of that election that goes on every single day where people can make decisions for themselves, and people, Americans, are leaving jurisdictions governed by leftist, corrupt politicians, and they are moving to Florida and other free states that respect your rights and that know how to run a state properly. That's the best endorsement you can have for your policies when people, hey, not just people like you have come, a lot of these other left-wing mayors and governors during COVID, they were leaving their area to come here and vacation. So don't take freedom for granted. We've seen how it's gone off the rails in other states and cities throughout our country. We can't let that happen here in the state of Florida. We've got to hold the line, and the only way we can be sure to do that is if you guys storm those polls on Tuesday. You got to do it. It's got to be big. Part of being a state that is grounded in common sense is we insist on a school system whose mission is to educate our kids, not to indoctrinate our kids. We want parents having a seat at the table, and we respect parents' rights to direct the education of their kids. We have curriculum transparency so you know what's being taught in your kid's school, which is common sense. We've also banned toxic ideologies like critical race theory from being taught in our K-12 schools. We're not teaching kids to hate each other or to hate this country. No, we're going to teach about our Constitution. We're going to teach about our Bill of Rights. We're going to teach about our founding principles. We are going to teach what it means to be an American citizen to the students in the state of Florida. And part of that is actually I signed legislation. So today is the first day, November 7th of every year, is a day for us as a state, but also students in school to learn about the victims of communist regimes throughout history. Over 100 million dead from Marxism and Leninist regimes. since the dawn of the 20th century, and we are teaching our students the truth about communism and about Marxism and Leninism, and that starts today. Now, my wife and I are parents to a 5, a 4, and a 2-year-old back home, and first of all, we're blessed to have the best First Lady in all 50 states in the state of Florida. You know, when we had Hurricane Ian bearing down on Florida, before it even made landfall, she had already established a Florida disaster fund to help the victims of the storm, and as of today, she's raised more than $54 million for storm victims. But our view is that parents of young kids should be able to send their kids to school without having an agenda shoved down the kids' throats. It is wrong to be teaching these elementary school kids in their curriculum about sexual matters, about transgender, about these other things. You don't tell a 6-year-old that they may have been born in the wrong body. That is wrong. And so we had the debate in the state of Florida about parents' rights in education, which basically said that, like, you know, focus on teaching them to add, subtract, read, write, do the basics. Don't be injecting these other things into the curriculum, and a lot of people were really happy to see that. It's sad that you even have to do that, but it is going on in other parts of this country. Do not ever let them tell you that it's not. It is. And so we did it, and it was being done by the legislature, and, you know, the left is not dumb. They know that that's a losing issue for them at the ballot box, so they thought if they could enlist big corporations to come in with a woke agenda and try to pressure me that somehow that we would back down. So they got the granddaddy of them all in the state of Florida, Disney, to come out against the bill, demagogue the bill. And their hope was that that would be enough to where we wouldn't be able to go forward with it. And you know what? Not a bad strategy. Disney, since the 60s, everything they have wanted from the state of Florida, they have gotten from the state of Florida, day after day, year after year, until now. We don't cow in the face of corporate pressure. We stand for the people of the state of Florida. So that tactic did not work on me. We signed the legislation into law. We were right to sign the legislation into law. And then when they doubled down and said they were going to try to repeal parents' rights going forward, we said, wait a minute. Okay, you can take these positions. I think it's bad business, but fine, take positions. But our policy in Florida is we oppose the sexualization of young children. You may be going in a different direction, and you may have a right to do it, but you don't have a right to be on a pedestal with special privileges granted by the state of Florida many decades ago. So we work with the legislature because Disney operates its own government. They control a government in Central Florida. They're exempt from laws that their competitors have to follow, and they get major tax breaks. So we said, okay, you're going that direction, we're going ours, but we're not going to leave you on this pedestal. So the legislature and I acted, and now Disney is no longer going to have its own government. They're going to live under the same laws as everybody else, and they are going to pay their fair share of taxes in the state of Florida. And I mean, honestly, the fact that you're even dealing with a lot of these issues, I think all goes back to the woke mind virus and woke ideology. It's woke to say, open the border. You're not allowed to have borders, otherwise you're racist if you have borders. That's woke. It's woke to say, let the criminals back on the street. It's going to be fine. That's woke. It's woke to try to do this stuff with gender ideology. And I had to do 2021. I had to sign legislation. I was happy to do it, but the fact that I had to sign legislation in Florida protecting women's athletics in our state. I mean, think about it. How is it okay to compete on the men's swim team for 3 years and then switch to the women's team and you win the national championship for women's swimming. And the quote runner-up was from Florida. She should have been the national champion in that. So they're taking away opportunities for women athletes, for young girls. And our view in Florida is our girls, our women athletes, they have a right to compete on a level playing field with fairness and with integrity. And that's what's going to happen here because we signed the legislation. You also, unfortunately, see the woke taking over some aspects of medical practice. And we've had to address this in Florida. Sad to say we have to do it, but there's been a big increase in physicians giving minors puberty blocker medication and doing sex change operations, surgeries on minors. And, you know, in Florida, a 15-year-old girl could not get a tattoo, but yet somehow get a double mastectomy. This is not based on science. This is ideology run amok, and we have a responsibility to do what's right for kids. And, you know, we've had a lot of adults who went through this when they were minors, and they regret it, and they were harmed by it, and they're speaking out to try to save other kids. And so we said that that's not appropriate in the state of Florida. We work with the Board of Medicine, and so now any physician in the state of Florida that is giving puberty blockers to minors or doing these sex change operations, they are going to lose their medical license. But it just shows you fighting woke ideology is something that we have to do across society. And in Florida, we do that. We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in corporate America. We fight the woke in classrooms. We in Florida will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die. So we've got a great opportunity here on Tuesday to make our voice heard. We've been fighting and had your back for the last 4 years, and so we just ask that you have mine coming up on the election. We have fought the good fight for Florida. We have just about ready to finish the race on this first term, and we have kept the faith with the voters who we made promises to, but we're only just beginning. We've got an awful lot to do. We look forward to being able to work with each and every one of you. We've only just begun to fight. Are you ready to keep Florida free?